So I'm sitting in Barbara's hospital room, and the little voice came, "What are you going to talk about on Sunday?" Because just coming here and reporting on how Barbara is, as much as you want that, this can't be just about Barbara. It's got to be about all of us. And what came was that Bible verse. Yeah, I'm doing Bible today. That Bible verse from Malachi that most of you have heard. It's the verse that every minister in every Christian faith uses to get people to give money. But that's not what we're doing today. Oh, this is Christmas Sunday. Merry Christmas. I want to talk about this one. Here we go. Here's the Bible verse. Bring all the tithes into my storehouse, that there may be food for my house, and prove me now in this, says the Lord of hosts, and I will open the windows of heaven for you and pour out blessings for you until you shall say, it is enough. I'm not talking about tithing today, even though some of you are going, really, Christmas Sunday, Barbara's in the hospital, you're going to talk about tithing? No. So let's make this a little more usable here. I got rid of the first two lines. Prove me now in this, says the Lord of hosts, which is spiritual law. That's how we interpret it. And I will open the windows of heaven for you and pour out blessings for you until you shall say it is enough. That's what I want to talk about. This is pure, absolute metaphysics. This is that if we do our work, and I'm not talking about our job, I'm talking about our work of being on planet Earth, of being in these human bodies, of interacting with one another. If we do all that we have come to do, and trust me, every one of you and I and Barbara have come here to do particular work, to do things to make this a better world. We've all come to do that. And when we do our work, when we do what we have come to do, without exception, we will receive the blessings, because all that work goes into spiritual law. Every thought, every action, every word that we say goes into spiritual law and returns to us as the reality of our lives. That's profound. That's exactly what we believe here. That's the same lesson we've taken from the Upanishads and from the Buddhist and the Buddha and all of the other great teachers of all time. It's the same lesson that when we come and do our work, things work out. Now, am I saying that we don't have challenges? Of course not. I was saying to my good friend Keith this morning, if someone came to me and said, I don't have a problem in the world. I never have had. I got this great, wonderful life. I would not trust that person. For one of two reasons. Either they would not have a clue what to do if something went badly, or they're compulsively lying. Either way, I don't trust them. I want to be around people who have gone through the fire, who have gone through the struggle of life, who have questioned everything and come out the other side. And even if they're not all the way out, I'd rather have that person that's working on it than someone that says, nah, it's all good, and is flippant about it, because that doesn't support the idea of my way of seeing the world. We did not come here to experience ease and grace every day in every way. We've come here to go through the fire, perhaps multiple fires. A nice analogy I used when I did firewalks. It's the same kind of thing. We're afraid. I want to assure you, I'm afraid. But I will not let that fear take over. It has its moments where it rears its head and tries to make me think this is going to turn out poorly. And my job with that is to thank it for its concern and send it away. And remember who I am. On Wednesday night, Wednesday, Barbara had a procedure where they ran a stent up into her, and you healthcare people remember it. It's the secondary artery that goes to the brain. Thank you, nurses. Vertebral artery. They went in and put a stent in to open that up so that she had a better blood flow on the left side of her brain. And I think most of you probably know her carotid, thank you, it was completely blocked. And at around midnight, her surgeon, who is a brilliant woman, came to us and said, we can't do a bypass. We've opened up the vertebral. Yes. Okay. We need to see what, this is the only thing that I know to do, is to open, or to at least attempt to open this carotid artery. And I was standing there with Barbara's son, Matthew, and she said, this is very risky. And she explained that if breaking through that, pieces would flow from that, pieces of material that could block the smaller arteries. She could, again, have a massive stroke. Yet she said, this is the only thing I know to do. And so we went in with Barbara, and she went through it again with Barbara. And there was this moment. When I looked down at her in the bed, and she looked directly at me, and we didn't say anything, but we both were thinking, this may be the last time I see you. Wow, what a moment. What a moment. So they carted her away to do this surgery sometime after midnight, and I pulled out my phone and started calling every minister I know, my colleagues. And I did it randomly. I think I may have started with A's, but it didn't end up that way. I was bouncing around all over the place. I would just kind of scroll my directory till I saw one, and I would call them. And I didn't give a hoot which time zone they were in. I woke a bunch of them up, and I said, I need your help. Every one of them supported me. Some of them wanted to do a treatment right there, and as much as I wanted to make the next call, I stayed with them, and they did the treatment. And they were all beautiful, and they were all powerful, and they were all amazing to me. One call, and I'm not going to give you a name, but I'm going to tell you that there was someone that was so displeased that I was elected president that she wouldn't talk to me. For 8 years, we had no communication. We were in each other's presence several times, but there was nothing to do there. And I always kind of held that hard. But I found her number, and I called her, and she did not answer. I didn't leave messages for anyone else, but I left her a message and said, I need your help. And she called me back. And I said, I need your help. And I started telling her this story about where Barbara was and what was going on. She already knew that Barbara had had a stroke. And I said that thing the doctor said about it being highly risky. She started screaming in the phone, no, 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 no. She would not allow me to think that Barbara was at risk. I was so impressed. And then she nailed it. She said, yours is not to treat. Yours is to love her. We'll treat. And this calmness came over me. And I knew everything was all right. So, I don't know, it was something around 3 that they brought Barbara back to the room. And the surgeon, and you know me, I'm out of control. The surgeon puts her hand out to shake my hand, and I grab her and hug her. And she said, not yet. She said, the surgery didn't work. She could not get through that artery. She could not break through it. But all these people are treating. And you know, treatment, or the demonstration of treatment, requires interpretation. I remember when I did my vision quest, my 2 vision quests with Rocking Bear. Both times I got a vision. That's the thing. You go sit up there with no food, no water for 4 days and 4 nights, and you cry for a vision, and a vision comes. Well, I got my vision. I had no idea what it meant. It was the dumbest thing. This is just stuff. What does it mean? Both times I went to Rocking Bear and told him what happened. And he explained it to me, and I went, oh. And this was like that, in that surgeon not being able to break through that artery was the answer to everyone's prayer. Because that was not the answer. That may have been the medical idea that a surgeon thought was the thing to do, but as it turns out, that was not the thing. That likely Barbara would have had a great stroke or she would have died from that. And she didn't. The other good news that came out of that was that soon after they did another MRI of Barbara's brain and determined that she was not only not having any more damage to her brain, but the space they had calculated initially that was at risk in her brain was 65 cubic millimeters of brain matter. And after the MRI that followed the surgery, she said, it's down to 20. That's a demonstration. One of the other things that they've been sharing that I've had to kind of acquiesce to it is that the process of recovering from a stroke is not every day is better than the last day. Some days feels really good, some days not so. And I'm in that ebb and flow right now, and I'm not enjoying the not so much time. We had that 2 nights ago, where it was really hard on her to be awakened again and again and again and not be able to speak. And she, out of a sleep, wake up and start answering questions and repeating things and hold your arm up and hold your leg up and all this stuff. And finally, I just started being very direct with the doctors. She's asleep. Give me a few minutes to get her up, wake her up, and then she'll be able to do it. And of course, he would leave, and then I'd say, okay, here we go. What's your name? Barbara Waterhouse. What's your name? Barbara Waterhouse. And we do those over and over and over again. Apparently, the doctor heard about it because he came back in and said, say, today is a sunshiny day. Where did that come from? But she said it. And even though there are those days that are moments, let's say not days, but moments that aren't what I want, every day has a blessing. There's a little corkboard out on the wall in the intensive care unit at this hospital that says, there are no bad days, but there may be some days that have bad moments. I wouldn't use the word bad at all, but I can go with that. And it seems to fit. So all this work that you are doing in prayer, all the work that my colleague ministers are doing in prayer, all the work that their practitioners around the world are doing, all the work that our practitioners are doing, are having the correct effect. They are allowing us to prove spiritual law. Because I am absolutely certain that Barbara's coming back to us. Yeah. Oh, and your participation remains incredibly important in this journey. I can't do this alone. Although I've had some models for people that have. There's a wonderful story about Maya Angelou. Her son, and I don't remember whether he was in an accident or if he had some kind of physical thing that came upon him, but the doctors came to her in the hospital, and I'm pretty sure it was in North Carolina, and said, we don't really have any hope that he'll survive. And her words to those doctors were, you can't even go where I am. You can't even go where I am. Because she knew that wasn't true. And she refused to accept it, even from the professionals. So as wonderful as these doctors are, and how grateful I am that they are there supporting Barbara, it's not their job to see Barbara whole. It's their job to deal with the things she's going through in the moment and helping her get through them. That's their work. Your work is to lift her up out of this and into her fullest expression. And I believe in you. So do that with me, and we're going to have exactly what we need to have. And excuse me, I'm going to talk to the camera for a second. And you people that are watching this online, you're a part of this as well. So as you watch this message, I invite you to close your eyes and to see the one you've seen on this stage, on these recordings for some time. I invite you to see her here again and to let go of any fear or concern that you may have. And know with me that Barbara Waterhouse is the presence of the divine and that she's not done. And I appreciate it. I really do, more than you know. Let's see what else I want to say to you. I want to say that this idea that I'm asking you to isn't for this week. It's until we see her on the stage. And that you never let go of that knowing. And if you fall into the things that sometimes I fall into, that it's not, we don't know. There's this big not know going on around us. Let it go. Let it go and just see her here. One thing I would invite you to do that I have found amazing is to go to our website, and this is everybody, go to our website and pull up one of her past talks and just watch it. I know some of you have done that, Judith, and others have done that online with Facebook. Let's just keep watching Barbara. Let's keep seeing her that way. Because it's quite amazing. Actually, I did it in the room on my phone because it was just easier on my phone. I pulled up one of her talks and I put it on pause. And every time a health professional, a physical therapist, an occupational therapist, a nurse practitioner, or a physician came in the room, I'd pop it on and I'd put it in their face. Look at this. And they would watch. A minute, just a minute. And it was amazing how every time I did it, whatever Barbara was saying was absolutely the right thing to say. So much so that the chief of the intensive care unit at Wake Forest University Medical Center has already invited Barbara to come speak there. So we're really setting ourselves up for a win here. We really are. So this phrase, a little history on this thing. Whoever wrote it, whether it was the prophet Malachi or someone that wrote it for him, has a real problem with the priests and the rabbis of the day. And the reason, the historical background to this verse is that it seemed that the Levites, the priests of the house of Levi, which was the priestly tribe of Israel, were receiving the tithes from the people. The people would, and most of it wasn't money. Most of it was livestock or produce or whatever it is they had, and they would bring their gifts. And what was going on was that the Levites were keeping most of it and sending a little bit to the temple, like 10%. And because of that, Malachi had a real problem with it. And he, in several verses, whoever wrote it, talked about, this isn't going to work for you. Don't do this. But in this verse, the author got real positive and really talked about, this is why we do this. This is why we bring ourselves to life. So the windows of heaven will open and pour out blessings for us until we shall say, it's enough. And I trust you for me, please trust me, that when Barbara stands on this stage, it'll be enough. Yeah. So, yeah. Thank you, Jane. We have never been abandoned. And the fact that Barbara has had this challenge, has this challenge going on right now, does not lessen her consciousness one tiny bit. It has happened to people that we know that have gone through these medical challenges, and they made their choice as to how they dealt with it. It's not the challenge itself, it's how you deal with it. We've watched Thomas Young and Kate Wagner go through strokes and come back in their brilliance. And I used to tease Thomas all the time about his stroke of genius. But intentionally, I invited the two of them up into Barbara's office this morning. and the three of us treated together because they have such a pure mental equivalent for what it looks like on the other side of this. And I wanted that in me. And I want to bring that to Barbara and look into her eyes and let her, and know with her that this is where we're going, into something greater. It's really up to Barbara, but I get nothing from her that she isn't up for it. She does the exercises she's been given. The woman that invited her to come speak gave her an exercise. She's not using her right hand. And so the deal is that even with all the wires and the IVs and the blood pressure stuff that's going on, she brings her fingers together and she brings that hand up over her head and works it from side to side. And what the doctor says is that what you're doing is reestablishing those lines of communication, those energetic moves through her brain into her body to do these things. And that's where she started. And we've got a whole bunch of exercises that we're going to keep doing. And she's obviously going to work with people that know way more than me. But I'm committed to be there with her and to go through these things. So that's what we're doing. Now I just want to talk for a minute about what you're doing. Barbara pretty much ran this place. If that's a news to you, then you've been not paying attention. And I'm glad to admit that I have been a good supporter. And I've had some good ideas, and we've had some good arguments about how to do things. But we've always worked it out, and it's never taken anything away from us. My love today is just as pure as it's ever been. And we're going to all need some help to do this. I don't know what that means right now. But from time to time, and that's, that is the line that the people give you when something like this happens. If I can do anything, let me know. I don't really know right now. All I know is that I'm going to go in very shortly back to Winston-Salem and sit down next to her and stay there as long as it takes, as long as she's there. And then I'll bring her home and we'll start rehabbing and doing that work. And then she'll be coming home. And however long it takes, I'm in. I'm in for the long haul. And I want you to be in for the long haul with me. So which means you got to believe this. You got to support this community. You got to support one another. You got to use our practitioners, and practitioners, you got to be there for everyone that needs it. And we really got to rally here. This is Barbara's legacy. We often say Charlie's the worst at it. He's always saying we have the best center in the world, and he doesn't care who he says it in front of. I try to be a little more diplomatic and not say it in front of the people that have bigger centers than us. But I believe it nonetheless. But it's time for us to really show that and to stay together and to support one another and to be there for one another and to help keep this place running the way it has been running so well under her leadership. It's not probably common knowledge, but our budget for many years has not really given us a place to turn over the accounting and bookkeeping to someone. So Barbara's been our bookkeeper. Senior ministers shouldn't be keeping books. And the logic of that is they shouldn't be doing it because there's the possibility they could do something wrong. They could do something unethical. I want you to know that as we approach our 25th anniversary, I know of not one time where Barbara and I did anything unethical with this center, where we cut a corner that shouldn't have been cut, where we said something that shouldn't have been said. Oh, hell, I've said things I shouldn't have been saying, but that I believe with absolute certainty that we have given our best, that we have been in alignment and integrity with who we say we are, and that we are not like the Levites, and that's the only thing we'll ever do. We have a contractual arrangement with this center to receive a percentage of the income that comes in, but we pay everything else. We pay in fact, that house over there, even though it still belongs to this center, we paid for it. We paid every penny to cover the cost of building that. And someday it'll be ours, but right now it still belongs to the center. And that's the way we wanted it to be. So I'm proud of that. And I think that's one reason we have been successful, is that we have done this well. Now, that doesn't mean we've pleased everybody. I've ticked off a lot of people around here. Some of them don't come here anymore. One of them that I had words with one day, and just, it was ugly. And he would never come back. Apparently came back this week and brought a pineapple and a beautiful card. I got to tell you, these kinds of healings mean a lot to me. They really do. So we're finding our way, and this is so filled with blessings that I will not make what's happening with Barbara wrong. I will know that there's the divine in the midst of every step of it, even the hard stuff, and that we are doing our work in a good way. Thank you for joining me in this and helping me find my way with this. Thank you for rallying and showing up and taking care of all the tasks around here that need to happen. We're really good at leading ourselves, and we'll continue. And we will know that because we are so committed and so clear in our love and support of this center, that spiritual law will continue to open the windows of heaven and pour down upon us blessings until we say it's enough. I love you all very much. Thank you.